Yeah, the protective meditations are part of the traditional Theravadan practice path, the Samatha practice path. And they're, I mean, one of them is fairly obvious, which is unconditioned love, what I call unborn love or metta. And then there's also recollection of the Buddha. So we're trying to, and I actually have done day-longs on recollection of the Buddha, where but part of my teaching we haven't touched on is I do some guided meditations into the absolute, and for whatever reason, people. Probably 95% of the people in on a retreat can follow along with what I'm describing unfolding in our field. And so they can end up coming along with me into the absolute and making their own direct contact. So recollection of the Buddha, I do the same thing. I do a guided meditation where we end up going to where the Buddha is teaching. And people will have the experience of sitting in the audience having the Buddha teach. And so for Buddhists, this is quite impactful. And one thing I do when I do this is I never describe the Buddha. And so afterwards, I'll ask people, who say, "Yeah, I saw the Buddha." I'll say, how did he appear? What did he look like? How old was he?" And interestingly, people will often have the same, like they'll see him in the same age group, and he'll appear in the same, like, for example, luminosity or what have you. So it's quite interesting that people can have that connection. Another one of it is the foulness meditation, where in the old days, we'd go to what they called the charnel grounds where they cremated the dead bodies. And the Buddhists would meditate in these charnel grounds with these, partially cremated bodies and contemplate. And modern day practitioners, not many, but a few will do things like they'll find a way to get to attend an autopsy, for example, and they'll use that as their charnel ground meditation. And then the final meditation is recollection of death, and this is our own death. So that's a really interesting practice. When I did all these with my teacher, these were all brand new to me. I'd never heard of the practices. And I had a certain amount of skepticism when I was presented with them of like, you're going to just practice meditating on your own death. And I'm like, oh, okay, we'll see what happens. And lo and behold, you're meditating and all of a sudden you're seeing yourself, and the irony here is everybody I know who's done this practice always sees themselves as really, really old. Nobody saw themselves like in a car accident 6 months from now. It was always, oh yeah, I think I'm like 90. But you get to see, the dying and sort of the quality of life, the quality of spirit at that time. And we can see that there's a trajectory here. If I continue on this path, look at how much easier this death is going to be than I anticipate. Look at how smooth it is. And then also, what can I do now that's going to make that a better experience? So these all help us protect us for going into the absolute and opening to cessation. So it's sort of giving us protection and also loosening our connection to the body in this lifetime. And so that's to me, that's the strategy of it, of why we do those.